Okay, good morning, everyone. Just a little recap. As you know, we have been working throughout the weekend on this case that involved Miss Summers. Uh, what we think happened now, these are just some details that weren't previously released, is that sometime Friday night, early Saturday morning, um, we believe that the suspect in this case, Mr. Trevor Summers, uh, had been communicating with a 14-year-old daughter and had asked her to leave a window open so he could come into the house. She did that. He had led the 14-year-old to believe that he just wanted to come over and speak to the mother. Probably around in the very early morning hours of Saturday morning, he arrived and he came in the house. Shortly after he came into the house, we have been told at this time that he told the 14-year-old to take his car and to wait in the area. She took a couple of the children out of the house at that time and waited in the area for several hours. He was communicating with her by cell phone, and I'm talking about the 14-year-old daughter and Mr. Summers. Probably around 5:30 in the morning, he told her to come and pick the other children up, which they drove back just a few blocks to the house, picked the other children up, and then he allowed her to drive his car to his address in the Riverview area. So we have a 14-year-old who has all the children, and they drive to the Riverview address, where they wait throughout the day, and supposedly he is going to speak to the mother during the day, and they're going to try to work things out. That is what he told the 14-year-old. It wasn't until that night, Saturday night, that we had not been notified of any of this, but that night we get the call at Walgreens where a female exits a car, appears to have her hands tied, and a male puts her back into the car, and that initiated our response. Throughout yesterday and today, it has been about attempting to recover her. And this morning, and we were following all the normal procedures that you would do to recover her. This morning, we had a citizen who alerted us that a car fitting that description was parked right in this area, and it's in the area of the crime scene tape, close to me. We converged on this area. The car left and traveled about, within a mile of this area, and went into a garage area, a carport area of a house that's built on stilts, and just parked there. The deputies, some uniformed and some plainclothes deputies, converged on that address and attempt to rescue the victim. Mr. Summers did not cooperate. He did resist some coming out of the car, and the female exited the car. She was in the back seat. He was in the front seat of the car. He has been taken to the hospital. He has what appears to be a self-inflicted knife wound to his throat area. She also has a wound to her wrist that it may have been inflicted by him. We're still in the process of interviewing her right now. She is in the company of our investigators, obviously very upset at this point, and we're taking our time interviewing her. He has been transported to a hospital, and where he'll be talked to and dealt with, and probably occurring at this time. So with that, that's kind of a synopsis of where we are, and I'll take whatever questions, and I won't be able to answer a lot of them because we've not got the detail from her that we expect to get later today, but I'll answer anything that I can.
The window being left open, was that at his home or at her house?
That was at her home, where the kids reside with her, and he had communicated with a 14-year-old and had convinced the 14-year-old to keep the window open. And this is part of the problem we've throughout this relationship. We've had conflicting stories between the husband and wife on a previous occasion, and I guess the court as well back in October. But apparently the 14-year-old was cooperating with him, left the window open, and he came in the house, we believe, that way.
When did it officially turn into a kidnapping investigation? Was she kidnapped from the Walgreens, or could it have happened before
Well, no, I believe what we know now. I believe that he took her from that house, at least coerced her in some way. Whether he had to physically take her at that time, we don't know. But he definitely got her to leave that house after the kids were gone. She attempted to leave the car at the Walgreens, and that was our first involvement. That's how, and through a citizen who got the tag number, we were able to run all this down and find out the history of what we had going on here.
What kind of why they stopped at that Walgreens?
We don't know that because we haven't really had a chance. We're having to take our time with the interview, so we don't know that yet.
What kind of injury did she have to her wrist, and is there any indication that he was violent towards her during this whole?
Well, we just have some preliminary statements from her right now, and until they get a chance to really work through that, I don't want to say, but she does have what appears to be a cut wound that may require some stitches. So she does have a wound. Whether she's got any more than that, I don't know. We're having to take our time in the interview process with her.
Can you describe this area when got the tip that the car was here? Was it just unmarked and plainclothes that came, or did they flee from marked cruisers?
We immediately upon getting the information, we closed off access to the resort area, so we knew they could not leave this area right here. There was only really, as you see, there's one way in, one way out, and then unmarked cars came in first. And as the unmarked cars came, actually prior to the unmarked car actually getting on the premises, the citizen advised us the car was pulling out, and the car pulled out of the resort, went down the road just a little bit, and the unmarked and the marked units were able to see that car pulled into a carport, which is really a very short distance from here, but it does have to wind around. So it's, I would say, a mile by road, but not that far directly. And found that car, and she exited when she realized it was law enforcement. She got out of the car, was very upset, ran out of the back seat. He was still in the front seat and was taken out of the car.
You know, the connection to
Pennsylvania, the sentencing that he's supposed to be going through in Pennsylvania for wire fraud, does this have anything to do with that?
I don't know, and I mean, it may all play into this whole scenario, and I don't know on the timing, but possibly, yes, it does.
The significance of this location, do you know why they ended up here for any reason?
No, we have some preliminary information, but we have not verified that, and we don't think they were here the whole time. That's not I doubt they were here the whole time. It's not a place where you can, you'd be noticed here because it is a resort area. There is security here. It's another question.
Were you renting here, or was this a home owned by maybe a friend or something?
We don't have any information that would suggest that there are any friends that, I mean, I don't know in the end if it turns out, but we don't have any information like that right now that would suggest that. There's a marina close by. Whether or not that played into it, there's a large boat marina right here. Whether or not that's going to play into it, I don't know.
Are you aware if there's still an active DCF investigation also about who ultimately will have
There are active investigations. Yeah.
When did he use the knife, and why?
We don't know that yet because we haven't had a chance, and we don't know if that happened at the time of the rescue attempt or if it happened prior. The wound on him appeared to be fairly fresh, but again, I don't know until they tell us that. We don't know.
What's his condition?
I think survivable wound. I don't think anything life-threatening.
What impact do you think the Crime Stoppers reward had in this case? And
Well, in most of these cases, the public paying attention to this is always an important step, and I think it's going to turn out. This case is no different. That the public being responsive to these alerts helped us out, and no question about that, 100%.
Sheriff, we've heard from her attorney that she has had a fear that authorities weren't believing what she was saying. Have you had a chance to look into that at all?
It'll all be part of it. What I do know from reviewing it is there were inconsistent statements in the past, and he had one story and hers was another, and of course that goes back to October when they both had an injunction, and that's difficult for me to say right now. I mean that obviously there's something to this, based on what's happened. There's no question about it, and these are always tough calls because the legal standards that we have to get to sometime are very tough, and but that'll be part of this process.
Are his children ever in any danger? I mean, how did he convince a 14-year-old to get behind the wheel and drive her siblings somewhere?
Well, that's a great question, and obviously there was some manipulation going on, and again, sometimes that's part of the problem for law enforcement, is one parent can be manipulating, and we don't have children that can give us an independent verification of anything, and that may turn out to be the case here. You know, great questions about why anybody would allow a 14-year-old to take 4 young children in the middle of the night and drive quite a distance. You know, we'll get to the bottom of that as well.
Can you talk about the witnesses at Walgreens and what they saw and how they saw it? Because I know there were a lot of people questioning, why didn't they jump into action and help and do something when they saw her screaming?
Yeah, I don't know, and I know there was, I mean, I don't know how many witnesses were. There were at least one, and I think it happened rather quickly, and I think by the time the realization set in, but I will say, at least the one witness was a person who was able to get the tag number. If we did not have that tag number and we had not backtracked this, we had no report. You know, the family had not reported her. So by the witness seeing this and contacting us, we were able to go to the houses and kind of start calling people and figure out what we had going on. So I'm very appreciative that the witness did, you know, give us that information, didn't let it just go.
Do you have any idea when she was taken and how long she had been?
We believe this probably started late Friday night, early into Saturday morning, and it's been going since then. Saturday being the 11th, and so we've you know, we're almost, you know, a day and a half, 2 days into it. So don't know for sure until she tells us that.
And at this point, has he been arrested and charged with any crime?
He is in custody right now. I mean, the initial charges are the same that we had on him yesterday: kidnapping, the grand theft of her vehicle, and also now certainly a violation of the domestic violence injunction. There could be other charges, you know, depending on what she tells us happened, how the wounds were inflicted, and all of that. But I'll just wait until we have a chance to really get a good briefing with her, and then we'll figure it out. We'll be talking to the state attorney, to Mr. Warren's office, the state attorney, and we'll be asking them to look at these charges and see if there are other charges that may be supported.
Can you talk about the witness that saw the vehicle here? It's kind of tucked back in there. What can you tell us about him? Did they see the vehicle moving or just parked?
Initially, they saw the vehicle parked and contacted us, and I don't have any information other than that. And when the vehicle started moving, the witness kind of stayed with him and let us know the direction, and we were able to find it down the street. So great job by a very attentive public. I guess one more, and that's about all I have.
Any indication on whether he was planning to kill her? Did he have more sinister ideas than this?
I don't know, you know, and that'll be, you know, her interview and what she tells us will be the most important part. What happened between early Saturday morning and today when she was recovered, and then hopefully, you know, maybe later today we'll have a little more information, can shed a little more light on what happened during that period.